What if the voice you call me isn't actually yours? What if your entire life, choices, dreams, even pain, has been shaped by someone you don't even remember becoming? If that hits something deep, keep watching. Because what's running your life isn't what you think. You can look successful, you can sound confident, you can smile at the right time, say the right things, even convince others you're doing fine, while deep inside, you're unraveling. Doubt doesn't scream, it whispers. Slowly, quietly, it eats away at the walls you've built to keep the world out and yourself from looking in. And one day, you realize you're no longer sure who's actually living this life, you or the version of you that was created to survive. There's a pain that doesn't show up on the surface. It doesn't come with a reason. It just sits there, silent but heavy, like you're wearing a mask that once protected you, but now suffocates you. And beneath that mask is someone you haven't met yet. There's no lecture here, no advice to just think positive or love yourself more. That's noise, and you've already tried all of it. The truth is harder. You don't hate yourself. You just don't recognize who's behind the wheel. And how could you? No one taught you to look inside. You've been so busy surviving, so busy becoming what others needed you to be, that your real self was buried under layers of shoulds, shame, and silence. This isn't weakness. This is the moment your system finally says, I can't keep living like this. You're not broken. You just never stopped long enough to see who's really in control. You've heard it 100 times. Just believe in yourself. Everything is in your hands. But what no one tells you is that these phrases, repeated like mantras, can become cages. When you're drowning in confusion or shame, being told to stay positive doesn't save you. It isolates you. Because deep down, a part of you already suspects the truth. It's not that you're not trying hard enough. It's that something inside you is working against every attempt to change. Self-help books, guided meditations, therapy sessions. Sometimes they help, and sometimes they simply become more sophisticated ways to avoid the real issue. You build a better mask, a smarter story, a more socially acceptable version of yourself, but you're still hiding. You're just hiding in new, approved ways. Healing can become another performance, especially when it never touches the part of you that still believes you're fundamentally not enough. What truly sabotages transformation is rarely a lack of effort. It's the unconscious identity that quietly resists anything unfamiliar. The you that was formed in pain, the you that learned early on to play it safe, stay small, and never ask too many questions. That part still runs the show, no matter how many affirmations you repeat. And here's the part no one talks about. You're not weak, you're not lazy, you're not doing it wrong. You're being led by parts of yourself that were created to survive, not to thrive. And they will continue to run your life until you turn around and finally ask, who's really in here with me? The mind is not a machine you can fix with logic. You can't think your way into freedom. You can only begin by noticing who inside you is pulling the strings, and why. If these words resonate, subscribe to the channel, not because it'll fix you, but because more people need to hear the truth that's been buried under years of noise. If you feel like this speaks to something real in you, subscribe, so this message can reach those who are finally ready to stop running from themselves. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of you you've rejected, denied, or never been allowed to express. Not because they were wrong or evil, but because somewhere along the way, you learned they were unacceptable, too angry, too loud, too needy, too different. So you buried them. You locked them away to be the good one, the strong one, the one who holds it together. But what's buried doesn't disappear. It grows in the dark. And the more you ignore it, the more power it gains over your life, silently shaping your thoughts, sabotaging your choices, and pulling you back into old patterns that you thought you'd outgrown. This is the root of self-doubt, not weakness, not failure, but conflict between the person you've been forced to become and the parts of you that are still screaming to be seen. That's why doubt feels paralyzing. It's not just indecision, It's a battle inside you, the real you, trying to wake up, and the survival self, trying to keep control. And in the middle, you're torn, exhausted, unsure, stuck. The inner critic is the voice of that survival self. You think it's you, but it's not. It's the voice that says, don't show too much. Don't ask for anything. Don't take up space. You're not ready. You're not enough. It's an echo of parents who couldn't see you, of teachers who shamed you, of culture that told you who you had to be. And over time, that voice becomes a mask, a false self. You show up in the world as someone functional, kind, capable, but numb, disconnected from what you really want, unclear on what you really feel, afraid to go beyond what's safe. You might not even notice how deeply that false self runs the show until one day you look at your life and realize you built everything for someone you're not. And when you reject your pain, when you tell it to shut up, get over it, move on, it doesn't disappear. It multiplies. It embeds itself in your body, your muscles, your nervous system. It comes out as anxiety that won't go away, as burnout, as unexplained emptiness. That's not failure. That's the shadow knocking. Look closer at your own behavior. You find yourself in codependent relationships because a buried part of you believes love must be earned, not received. You work endlessly and chase perfection because deep inside, you're trying to outrun the belief that you're inherently not enough. You're anxious not because of what's happening, but because part of you never learned how to feel safe just being. And that's the paradox. Everything that's not working in your life isn't random. It's your shadow, the hidden you, trying to get your attention. Understanding this isn't a spiritual concept, it's a survival skill. Because as long as you keep trying to change your behavior without meeting the parts of you that cause it, nothing really changes. It's like rearranging furniture in a house that's burning. Until you look directly at what you've rejected, until you stop trying to fix yourself and start listening to the one who's hurting, you'll keep repeating cycles that were never yours to begin with. The shadow doesn't need to be killed, it needs to be seen. And when it is, when you meet those parts of you with presence, not punishment, you begin to reclaim the power you've been giving away your entire life. But there's something even more dangerous than self-doubt. It's believing in a version of yourself that was never truly yours. It's when the mask becomes so seamless, so practiced, that you forget it is a mask. You stop questioning. You stop feeling. You stop hearing your own voice, not because it's gone, but because you've spent too long being who others needed you to be. That's when the real you starts to vanish, not with a scream, but with silence. Trying to be a good person sounds noble until you realize it's slowly killing who you really are. Not because goodness is wrong, but because most people's version of good is a costume, obedient, pleasing, quiet, low maintenance. The kind of person who never asks for too much, never gets angry, never shakes the system. You learn to be that early. You survive that way. But over time, that version of you becomes a cage. You say the right things, you do what's expected, you make others comfortable, and then, slowly, you disappear. Piece by piece, need by need, truth by truth, until one day, you're not sure where you end and the expectations begin. This is how self-sabotage begins, not out of laziness or failure, but fear. Fear of what will happen if you stop being the version everyone likes. Fear of being rejected for being too much, too intense, too emotional, too honest. So instead of living your truth, you quietly destroy anything that threatens the mask. You pull back when it matters most. You abandon your own dreams before anyone else can. You dim your light, not because you want to, but because somewhere deep down, you believe it's safer that way. But here's what no one teaches you. Pain isn't your enemy. Pain is a map. It points directly to the parts of you you've left behind. The parts that were told they were too much or not enough. The parts you've tried to hide, manage, ignore. Pain shows you where you've been divided. And if you listen, really listen, it can also show you how to return to wholeness. There's a reason you keep seeing the same patterns in others that make you angry, disgusted, jealous, or afraid. That's not just personality, that's projection. You spot in others what you've exiled in yourself. You judge people for being selfish because part of you was never allowed to want. You resent their confidence because your own was punished. You roll your eyes at someone's vulnerability because yours was never safe. The shadow doesn't hide only in darkness, it hides in the people you can't stand. That's the paradox of healing. What you think is wrong with others might just be the part of you you're not ready to meet yet. And doubt, that heavy, paralyzing fog, might not be your enemy either. What if doubt is the beginning of clarity? What if it's the moment your soul says, "This life no longer fits me"? What if the discomfort you feel isn't a breakdown, but a breakthrough? Because real hope, the kind that changes you, doesn't come from things getting better. It comes from things getting clearer, from seeing yourself with such brutal honesty that the lies finally fall away, from realizing you don't need to be someone else to be free. You just need to stop abandoning who you've always been. And that clarity, that's the beginning of power. Not a loud, ego-driven power, but the kind of strength that comes from finally standing in your own truth, no matter who it disappoints. When you stop fighting your darkness, you stop being afraid of the light, you stop needing to be good, and you start becoming real. Let's talk about tools, not for fixing yourself, but for meeting yourself, because doubt, fear, hesitation, they're not the problem. They're messengers. And if you learn how to listen to them instead of fighting them, something shifts. Start with this, the shadow dialogue technique. Find a quiet space, sit down, close your eyes, and imagine the part of you that always doubts, the voice that says, "You can't, you're not ready, you're not enough." Now give that voice a face, a name. Maybe it's a scared child. Maybe it's a tired version of you. Ask it, "Why are you here?" Then wait. Don't argue, don't explain, just listen and write down what comes. You're not trying to silence the doubt. You're trying to hear what it's been trying to say all along. Now try this. In the moment when doubt strikes, pause. Ask yourself, who inside me is speaking right now? Is it your inner child? Is it the voice of a parent, teacher, or past relationship? Start naming your parts. Give them space. You are not one voice. You are a whole internal family, and doubt is just one member who's been screaming to be seen. Next, tune into your body. Your body remembers everything the mind tries to forget. That tight chest, that clenched jaw, that heaviness in your stomach, that's not random stress. That's a signal, a trapped emotion, a silenced truth. Instead of trying to make it go away, place a hand there, breathe into it, ask, "What do you need me to feel?" The answer might surprise you. Another powerful practice is journaling from your doubt, not about it, but as it. Open a page and write, "I am your doubt, and here's what I want you to know." Let it speak freely. Let it rage, cry, question. Then respond, not with logic, but with presence. "Thank you for sharing. I hear you." This isn't a therapy technique, it's a relationship. You're learning to stop abandoning parts of yourself when they get loud. And finally, the shift that changes everything. Stop trying to get rid of your pain. Start asking what it's trying to teach you. Pain is not a punishment, it's a guide. It points directly to the parts of you that are still waiting to be met. And once you begin that conversation, doubt becomes less of a wall and more of a doorway. If you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." Let's build a space for people who are done pretending, done hiding, and ready to meet themselves fully. Every comment is a signal to someone else. You're not alone in this. Doubt is not weakness, it's depth. It's the evidence that something inside you refuses to settle for the surface. While others move through life on autopilot, you've felt the cracks. You've heard the inner noise. You've stopped, even if just for a moment, and asked, "Is this really me?" That alone makes you different. The world doesn't teach us to listen inward. It teaches us to perform, to please, to conform. And when you start breaking out of that, when the old masks stop fitting, it can feel like falling apart. But maybe you're not breaking, maybe you're becoming. Maybe the doubt isn't here to pull you under, but to pull you in, to where your real voice, the one you buried long ago, is still waiting to be heard. This journey isn't about healing in the way they market it. It's not about becoming some blissed-out version of yourself who never struggles, never feels lost, never doubts again. That's just another illusion, another role to play. Real healing is messy. It's confronting. It's quiet nights full of questions and raw mornings where everything aches. But there's honesty in that. And in honesty, there's power. Because when you stop trying to fix yourself and start simply meeting yourself, you stop running in circles. You begin the slow, sacred work of building a relationship with the parts of you that have never been welcomed. And you discover they weren't trying to ruin your life. They were trying to bring you home. Doubt doesn't stop you from living. It invites you to live differently, to stop performing, to start listening, to make choices from clarity, not fear, to build a life that doesn't require you to abandon yourself to belong. This isn't the end. You haven't figured it all out. You've simply begun to listen, to question, to feel. And that's enough. That's everything. This is only the beginning.